Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Creative Finance Playbook podcast. We're your host, Jen.
I'm Joe.
And today we're going to reflect a little bit on 2024 being a wild year for investors. Some people crushed it, but others not so much. Today we're breaking down the biggest mistakes investors made last year so you don't fall into the same traps in 2025. Whether you're just getting started or you're a seasoned pro, these lessons could save you thousands or even millions. Stick with us because mistake number 3, it's the silent killer of portfolios, and almost nobody's even talking about it.
Dun dun dun.
What? So it's the truth, guys. Some of you might not like what we're about to say, but we're going to talk about what we feel are some of these big mistakes that even some gurus out there might be talking about.
All right, so don't hate the player, hate the game.
What?
But so we're gonna go over some things that maybe have worked before in the past, but I will tell you they are surely not doing that right now.
2024 was not the same market as 2022, 2020. I mean,
2021. I mean,
goodness gracious, a lot has happened.
yeah.
So,
So what has happened over the last few years? Obviously, pre-COVID, the market was moving along. Nothing too crazy. It was probably slightly going up. We were doing deals then.
mhm.
It wasn't like the market was on fire. Nothing out of the ordinary. Um, Fast forward 2020 happens, COVID happens, world shuts down. Nobody knew what was going on. Now we have a shortage of houses. People are now working from home. People are moving all over the country like crazy. Like 1.5 million people moved to Florida like within like 3, 4 years. That's a
Mhm.
lot of people. That's more than the whole county we lived in before. Imagine all of those people just moving here and that place be vacant,
Feels like they
right?
did.
But so the market has changed quite a bit.
Yeah.
Interest rates were in the twos. I've seen some rates is in the low twos.
Mhm.
Interest rates for 30 years for buying a house. Like that's like free money. It incentivized everybody to go out and buy real estate. Why wouldn't you?
Mhm.
Affordability has never been easier. Why is that? Because at a 2.5% interest rate, I could afford much more house. I could get a way bigger, way more expensive house and still keep my payment low because the rates were just so darn cheap. So then fast forward, that went on for a few years. And then it was June 2023. Like, here it is. The feds are like, okay, we're going to start raising rates. And that's kind of when the party, it was like, dun, 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 like, kind of
It's like
like,
the Roaring '20s, like Gatsby era, like came to a not a halt, but it
no,
like the music slowed down.
it definitely did. And with real estate, it's a slow turning
Yeah.
shift. It doesn't drop like immediately or anything or spike up immediately.
Mhm.
It takes time. And usually you don't realize what's going on until it's already happening.
But really reflecting 2022, and I don't know because of bias, we moved from New York to Florida. We were part of that mass migration, but like everybody was buying Airbnbs, everyone's traveling, life opened up again. Like it was this like crazy time. So then like when like you're talking about a year later in July, June 2023, like it was just like, oh, like it'll go back down, right?
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, when we were doing deals, we were hitting some months, we were doing double digits
Yeah.
deals in 1 month, right?
People were
And
selling like hotcakes.
well, the thing was people were selling and we were having deals that were just like anybody who said yes to terms, like the deal cash flowed.
Yeah.
Interest rates were really low. If I had a fix and flip or a wholesale deal,
Mhm.
I mean, fix and flip, guys, if you never did one before, you can mess it up and still make a lot of money because the
Mhm.
market was just going up so quickly. So even if you've messed it up, you felt like you were a hero. So it made a lot of activity happen. But I got to tell you,
Mhm.
it felt a lot like, to me, 2004, 2005, 2000. Some of you listening might not have been born yet. So what was happening back then
Yes.
was in 2005,
Story time.
2006, and 7, the market was going straight up. You had to put an offer in for full asking. Now, I grew up Italian household where when you went to like the public market, like you go to the grocery store, you can't negotiate, but you would go to the public market and I would watch my little Italian grandmother like get stuff for half off because you'd know I'm not paying, I'll give you this. And the farmers would sell it like that. So to me, negotiating was always a thing. So
Mhm.
when I bought my house that I lived in 2006, they're like, I went to go put in some low offer and they're like, no, we'll do $2,000 off. I was like, "What?" Like,
Mhm.
I almost had, like, a eruption, right?
Yeah.
But so that was happening back then. The market was going up, and then end of 2007, well, 2007, that's when, like, the lender stopped lending, and it caused a whole bunch of stuff that started happening in 2008. So I almost felt like it's a little bit different time, but the market back in 2020 21, 22, it was red hot. It was going
Mhm.
straight up. So I kind of felt like that could only happen for so long
Yeah.
before
Well, what goes
something
up
starts to happen
must come down.
at a point, right? At a point. So the big mistake for 2024, where I've seen a lot of people get crushed, we're going to go over the first step.
Mhm.
One of my favorite ones is Burr. Okay. Burr sucks. Just going to say it. Now, don't get me
Tell us
wrong.
how you really
I
feel.
know they're all be like, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Guys, I was doing Burr with Jen in 2008, 2009, 10, all those years we were buying houses
We
in the
didn't even
suburbs.
know what it
Didn't
was.
have the phrase back
And
then.
maybe someone listening might not know. What is burr?
So we would buy junk properties. So first of all, you have to locate these properties at a significant discount that need a lot of work. Usually, if you're doing it online, you got all these other people pay, looking at the same property. So if you are paying for it, you're paying top dollar for it. But you're buying a property, no matter however, you're going to need to get it at a discount because it needs a lot of work. Then you're going, that's B, buy, right? But how are you going to get the cash? These are cash deals. You can't just go borrow that money from Bank of America. You have to use like a private money lender, or if you have your own capital, great. But well, like, how do you come up with all that cash? Next, you got to remodel the place, the R. Remodeling, you have to now manage contractors, or if not, you're doing it yourself, which part of the reason why it sucks.
More money.
Um, right? Because now you're hiring contractors, you're managing contractors. And if you're like how I was, I had a job. So when they would say, oh, Joe, we opened this up and we noticed this, we need you to come take a look. Like I had to drive half an hour. I couldn't do that during the day. So it made the job even longer.
Mhm.
And then some contractors don't do great work. Even they come recommended. Some contractors rip you off and take your money and don't come back and finish the job. And if you're like, this is impossible, you've never done one before. Because all of those things happen. So after you manage the contractors and do that, now you're going to rent it. You just bought this house cash. You just spent tens of thousands, if not more, in renovations. Now somebody who's just going to give you 1 month security deposit and first month's rents get to move in. You're going to be a landlord and you're going to rent it. Usually, not a whole lot of cash flow. Why? Because now you got to go to the bank and say, I've got this property I own outright. I've got a renter and they're paying me rent, and I need to do a cash out refinance, and I want to pull out 75% is usually what they do. Sometimes it's 80%, sometimes it's 70%, depending on the lender and what's going on, but that's what they're going to give you. So what does that mean, Joe? Well, that means if they're going to give you, say, 75% of the value, they appraise it at 200,000, they're only going to give you 150 back minus your closing costs, which are probably 5, 6, 7 grand. So you might get 138. But what happens when you paid cash for it in the renovations and you've over budgeted?
Mm.
Right? You put too much into the property. And what people say is they're leaving money in the deal.
Mm.
What does that mean? When we did Burr, so I could say how we did it the right way, not only did we get all of the money we invested into that deal, we actually got to take out extra money because we bought the deal right. We put the right amount of budget in there, and the appraisal came back way better, or what we thought it would. So I actually, on many of these Burr that we did, I'd pull out 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 extra cash out of the deal. And it still cash flowed.
Mhm.
Barely, barely. The hot water tank would go. There goes the cash flow for the
But the
whole year.
big difference when we were doing this in 2008, 12,
Mhm,
13, whatever it was, it
mhm.
worked and we were able to pull all that money out versus someone who's trying to do this today.
Yeah. So this is what the mistakes were.
Yeah.
So now you're buying houses. Houses, I mean, they just hit an all-time high within the last like year or so. All-time high. Real estate has never been more expensive than it has been like almost like right now. They're having a little bit of a pullback right now, but what, a year ago, year and a half ago, it's literally been the highest real estate has ever been.
Like a purchase price for a house.
Yeah. Yep. Purchase price. So now you're buying at almost an all-time high, which if you're buying anything, you never want to buy at an all-time high, but here you are, right? Cost of everything, inflation has made repairs, contractors, supplies, all higher. So now you're paying more for the house. Your repairs, contractors all cost you more. You're going to rent that property and then you're going to go back to the bank today. Here's the problem. Back when we were burring, we were getting interest rates at like 4 or 5%, high
Mhm.
fours, low fives. That's what we were getting. Right now, it's like 8.5%.
Woo.
You're looking at 8.5%, right? So when you start throwing all the numbers on there, I know people right now who are doing Burr, who left money in the deal. So they didn't even get their own money back, better yet, take extra money out. They left money into the deal and they're still not cash flowing.
But they got some money back, so that's what, like, why people keep doing it?
No.
They're not getting any money.
Well, let's just say you put 150,000 into the job and the bank says, we're only giving you 125 back. So now you pay back either your own account or you pay back your money lenders and you've got $25,000 that you still have to pay everybody back for. They're leaving that money in the deal.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's the opposite. And now you're borrowing that whatever number,
So how are you profiting? How is anybody? I mean, this is why we're talking about it. I'm just trying
right?
to, like, think through for people who might be.
They're not. That's why it's number one biggest mistake of 2024
But, like, nobody's really talking about this.
because it's silent right now. Why would they?
Well,
Everybody kept bragging about how great Burr
I
was.
mean, I thought number 3 was the one no one's talking about, but I feel like, man,
No,
nobody's really talking about this either, and
no.
because I see a lot of big names out there talking about burring, and I just burred this, and I just burred that, but, like, at the end of the day, is anything making any money?
Well, okay.
What are they banking on?
Don't,
Appreciation?
okay. If you're really good at getting off market leads, you're direct to seller and you bought the deal right and contracted it right. I don't know how paying 8.5%, you're still going to cash flow, but maybe best case scenario, you can still pull all your money back out. But then once you throw on that 8.5% rate, taxes and insurance, management, maintenance, are you cash flowing? Good luck. It's almost impossible. I can't tell you how many of my investor friends are like, I'm just on the sidelines. I'm waiting right now, or I need to do what you do and get in that creative stuff. I'm like, "Yeah, I totally agree. Like, you should not be paying that kind of rates right now. So Burr, I think, is the biggest mistake of a strategy that was working that right now is not working. And I'm not saying it won't work again,
Mhm.
but in most 90 something percent of the markets, it's not.
Well, especially for a new investor, somebody who is looking to do their first deal. I mean, just to
Mm-mm.
take on a project to fix and flip, which we're going to get into next anyway. But I mean, it's kind of what a burr is. You got to flip it a little bit to bring it back to life. So,
Oh yeah, you're doing full renovations on those things. So
yeah.
no, I agree. So Burr is probably my number one,
Okay,
like
we got a little heated in there.
giddy up. Well, it's just one of those things. So that's why I think Burr's number
Well,
one.
there's better ways to buy real estate. And I think that's the point of this episode is to just enlighten and share a little bit more
So what's the
education.
alternative? Buy seller finance deals.
Mhm.
Don't do, full run remodeling, right? I like to buy the
I
turnkey
was just say
houses.
buy the turnkey beautiful house that Mr. Derek has to move from Florida to Texas and he just built it 2 years ago and he's
Hmm.
got a 4.25 interest rate. It cash flows and it needs nothing.
And no banks, no credit, no nothing involved. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
All right, well, let's get into mistake number 2. It is all about the full fix and flip. We're talking a big gut job because you might hear like there's something called like a cosmetic lipstick flip, right? And that just means maybe some fresh paint, maybe a new carpet, light little tiny things that don't break your budget or break the bank at all. It's like little tiny fixes. But
Yeah,
a full gut job, which we've done,
not right now. We're not.
but we have done.
Oh, yeah.
We are not, and we're on record right now. We are
We just
not
did
doing
one not too long
we're
ago,
not doing
right?
anymore.
So, but here's what's happening when the market's going up and it's
Yeah.
red hot like it was 2 years ago. If that job took you an extra month or
Mhm.
two, good news is your house probably went up a little bit more value.
Yep.
But right now, it's either staying flat or it's even dropping in
Yeah.
some areas. So now is time is of the essence.
And
And
let's talk about that because like in our heads, in a perfect world, you buy the property in or buy it and write it up in December,
mhm,
but then you don't close on it and the seller doesn't move out until
mid-January, end of January,
and then your contractor says it'll be done in
3
2,
months,
3 months.
and it'll be done in 4.5.
So, extensions and products and materials, like things happen out of our control. And
Mhm.
so that's what we really need to talk about too is like where you bought it at and what is the market truly going to look like when reality hits and you can actually list it. Is it
Yeah, and some of the ones I'm certainly staying away from right now, certainly. Big, big jobs. I've got that one in Orlando. Lady's got a decent it's actually a neat nice house. It's 4,000 square feet. It's a big old
it's a
house,
big house.
right? And if a big old house like that needs a roof or things like that,
Yeah.
that's a different story. And then I've got another one
This is a
where
gut job?
no, that one's not, but
Oh.
it's a big, big house where I'm staying away from big
Oh,
houses.
okay.
The other one I'm staying away from is super old houses. I've got a guy who in upstate New York bought a house. He wants to sell it. It's 2,800 square feet. It needs to be fully remodeled. It was built in 1850. 1850. Okay. For anybody listening, find out who the president was of the United States in 1850 and drop that comment in the messages just so we could date ourselves and when this house was a new build, right?
Fun
So,
fact about Joe, he loves doing that anytime there's an old house,
oh,
like, "Who was
yeah.
president during 1863?"
I know Abraham Lincoln was back then. But that's where yeah, I look at that. I'm not doing super old houses. I'm
Mhm,
not doing major gut jobs. I'm not doing fix and flips right now. So if I have a seller who wants to sell at a big discount because the property needs a lot of work, I'm going to wholesale that deal. I'm going to find a cash buyer, a landlord, somebody who wants to do a fix and flip could be, who wants to take that property from us
mhm,
and give me a finder's fee for it, an assignment fee. That's how I'm changing my strategy. Because I think of our Pensacola deal.
mhm,
We do a deal in Pensacola, Florida. I looked up comps. Comps were spot on for like 300,000. Our contractor shot out, did a great job,
mhm, the
did a
house is beautiful.
really good work. I mean, like the house went from being like okay to like really, really nice. We didn't even overdo it either.
Mm-mm,
But we priced it at the price that we thought it would sell for. It which was 300,000. Price drop, price drop, price drop. We sold it for 235. Okay. And that's just because of the market changing.
mhm.
And these were recent comps.
So we made money,
Oh,
but
we still
what
made money,
not as
but it
much as
was
we hoped.
yeah. So, you're putting and here's why I'm getting away from fix and flips. I buy the property, the seller gets paid. I pay a title company or attorney to close the deal. They got paid. I put an insurance policy on the house. Insurance company gets paid. I'm paying utilities on the house. I'm paying my contractors. Then I have to either stage the house, stager gets paid. I'm listing the house with an agent. After it sells, agent gets paid, attorney gets paid again. I'm literally the last one to get paid on that deal.
Mhm.
And I'm the one putting up all the risk.
And I think this is coming from,
A place of caring for you.
well, also with the type of investor that you are, like we are not full-time fix and flip. That is not our model. Like we've done it to supplement it to get some cash or whatever it is, but this is for, like you're saying, if you find somebody that is their full-time gig or, there are people that do love to renovate the houses,
Mhm.
but this is if you're A new and B like trying to also wholesale, find your creative deals, build a portfolio, and do that, like, just definitely be very cautious. I think it's a big
Super
mistake if
conservative.
yeah.
Just be conservative, know your numbers, and understand whatever you think your numbers are, they're probably gonna be 10 to 15% less than that, as far
Mhm.
as, like, what you think it's gonna sell for based on the market, and if it
Especially
sells
in
for
some
that
areas like Florida.
Florida's soft right now. The market's really
Mhm.
softening. Insurance rates have gone up tremendously. And I can buy a house and have an $8,000 payment, or I could rent the same house across the street for 4,500 a month. And you don't have to come up with a huge down payment to rent the house across the street. And
Mhm.
so that's what's causing that softening here is affordability. So big fix and flips, big older houses, definitely staying away from those. Those were some mistakes. And I've had a lot of people reach out to us,
Mhm.
say, "Hey, I have a house for sale." We ask them, "Why do you sell?" and all this stuff. And there were actually investors. These
Yeah.
weren't even like regular Joe and Jen homeowners. These were investors who were doing this. And like, I owe the money lender. It's not selling. It's sitting on the market. I'm taking a loss. I don't know how I'm going to do this. Like so many times. So like shifting in the business
Mhm.
and having more than one strategy. I'm doing less fix and flips for 2025. I'm doing more wholesaling of those contracts. I promised our CFO that for 2025, I'm not going to do any. I did not have my fingers crossed during that meeting.
I think your legs were.
Then my legs, you never know, right? So that's that one. Number three,
Mhm. This is one where I feel like you could go head to head with, quite a few investors that we know personally even, whether or not you should even worry about cash flow, and just, bank on appreciation on
yeah,
houses because mistake number 3, thing no one's talking about.
go ahead.
High percentage of interest rates, right? So these rates that are like 7, 8%, and I mean, even sometimes they're a little bit lower, but the point is that they don't cash flow.
Yeah. So the big biggie for me was right now you're paying. I've seen some loans at 9%. And this is the big, big challenge right now of 2025 for everybody. We all hope rates go down. it's gonna help things tremendously, but I can't depend on that happening. I can't
It's, like,
count on
not
that
even a
happening.
thought in my head, honestly. Like, yeah, it'd be great, but, like, I don't think it's gonna happen anytime soon. So, like, I wanna find the deal that is
So do I
for
wait, right? Or do I still buy deals now? Or
right.
do I wait on the sidelines? I've got so many people like, "Hey, Joe, I'm just waiting for rates to go back down before I could buy again."
But then you also have people who are buying deals at this rate, and they're losing money.
Yeah. I just was on a phone with somebody yesterday, and they put down $80,000 on a deal to I was like, "Okay, well, that's a lot of money, but, how's the rest of the deal coming? What's the payment?" He said, "It's 2,500 a month." I said, "Well, what are you gonna get for rent?" And he's like, 2,100 a month best. I was like, "Wait a minute. You
Mhm.
came up with 80 grand just to lose $400 a month? Like, that's a big risk, right? That's a lot going on there."
And the more
Uh,
Florida investors that I talk to, like, that's they just it's the norm down here. Like, "Oh, yeah, I lose money per door, but I get to write off the
well,
depreciation, and then I'm I know the market will go up eventually, and so I'll be able to cash out, in 10, 20 years."
but
Well, how
let
how
me
are
tell
you
you,
operating as a
I
business
know
owner?
it's like the
I mean,
what
I
came
know we're representing our cash flow shirts, but
well, and I wanna kinda talk about that because, like, we always talk about, like, what came first, the chicken or the egg, and it's a big debate. Well, the big debate for real estate is, do I buy on some people only buy on appreciation, some buy cash flow. I like to do a lot of both,
Mhm.
but the deal's gotta cash flow.
And I guess I'm dipping into mistake number 4 because they literally go hand in hand. Because of some of these high interest rates, people are buying non-cash flowing deals.
Yeah, so I knew people in 2005, 2006, and 7 who were buying real estate say, "It doesn't matter for cash flows, Joe. The market's going up. This house is gonna be worth so much money. I'm banking on appreciation. It just goes up every month." Well, they were right until 2008,
Mm.
and then at 2008, it took 15 years to get back to those prices again. So that's a
And if you think
long
he's
time. Wait a
lying,
minute. That's a long time of not cash flowing, owning a property, hoping to just what break even again. This is why if these deals don't cash flow, y'all are crazy.
and I wanna hold us to this, and I'm sorry I cut you off, but I wanted to say, like, there are
Mhm.
actual properties, like, it's kind of a fun thing we do on a Friday night is pull out Zillow and we'll scroll, and you go back to especially in Florida where this market definitely, because upstate New York, it didn't have this big effect,
No,
but some of these Florida properties, they were very inexpensive. You could get a really nice home for 200, 300,000. 2020 hit, or no, before that, I misspoke. So, the
in
dates.
the early 2000s, you could buy a home for
Yeah.
200,000. 2006, 2007, that house went from 200,000 to 450.
Mhm.
But then that 450 price dropped way off and it went back down to the 200,000.
Under for what people were buying it for, so people are
Oh,
losing money,
taking huge losses.
and
And
it
then what would
took a
happen?
long time.
By the time 2020 came along,
Yeah.
2021, it finally got back to that price and then it jumped up to that $450,000 house. Now they're selling for a million.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh boy.
This is what's a wild it's like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, I feel like, because, like, how did a house that was 200,000, it went up to 450, and now it goes back down again, and then all of a sudden in 2022, it, like, hits this peak, somebody buys it there, and then now they're trying to sell it, and it's just sitting, and
Yeah, I
it's not
see.
just one house.
No, there's a lot of houses here in Florida where they bought it and they're selling it for much less than what they bought it for. And they're not even able to sell it yet. It's
Mhm.
still just sitting there.
Yeah.
And they're losing their tails on some of these deals. Because if you think about 2022, 21, do you remember all of our real estate friends, all of our realtor friends? Like, I just got my seller 75,000
Mhm.
over asking. So if you remember, there was a shortage of houses. And if you were deemed one of the lucky ones that your offer got accepted, because there'd be 50 offers, you were the one that got accepted because you bid the most over asking.
Mhm.
So you were the one that paid the most for it, right? Well, now what is it? The chickens home to roost or whatever that means.
I have no
But
idea.
the difference is now those prices have gone back down.
Yeah, and so again, like some of these mistakes, if you're looking for rental properties, you really got to be doing your numbers, do the math. You don't have to be like an A plus plus math student. There's just a simple formula. Like, does it rent for more than what you're paying in taxes, insurance, and
All
on
your
to the
expenses.
lender? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that it's just taking a couple extra steps, and don't get overly excited or watch one too many YouTube videos to try to build a portfolio that, you might actually end up having to lose. Like that, nobody wants that. So being conservative, being cautious, and learning through the little bit of the past that we've seen, we were able to pick up some really amazing deals when the market got funky. And it was when we just first met and I knew nothing about real estate and you definitely were, looking back, wish we could have bought more had
Oh,
we known creative. So I think too, it just goes to show that like again, there's so many people out there with cash flowing properties that they don't want to be a homeowner anymore. You just have to go find them and you have to know how to construct the deal properly.
yeah, so the deals are out there.
Hmm.
There's still plenty of deals, so you don't have to wait to do your next deal. But moving forward for 2025, what I recommend, I'm only buying creative. There's no banks involved, but I've been doing that for years, so that's nothing new there. But I am not paying 7, 8, 9%. That's crazy.
You're not burring.
I'm definitely not burring ever again. I just nope. And then the last thing is I'm definitely not going to be doing some full remodels, especially on big houses, especially on big old houses. That's like the no way am I touching that right now.
Mm-mm.
Just not doing that. I could wholesale that deal. So moving forward, I'm going to be doing more wholesale deals. We're doing a little bit less fix and flips. I'm going to be definitely doing more terms deals, making sure that those properties are nice, beautiful houses, beautiful neighborhoods, cash flow, good low payments, good low interest rates,
Mhm.
great properties.
So you're saying all these things are still possible moving forward
Today,
in
we're doing
2025.
them right now. Okay. So I definitely be doing even more of these next year.
So there you have it. 4 of the biggest mistakes investors made in 2024 and exactly how you can avoid them in 2025. Here's the thing. Mistakes are part of the game, but the real mistake is not learning from them. Take what we talked about today and start putting it into action. And remember, the market doesn't reward the smartest investor, it rewards the prepared investor.
Bam.
If you found this helpful, share it with someone who needs to hear it, but don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Let's make 2025 your best year yet. See you next time.